Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting, July 21st, 2026 of the Tehachapi Unified School Board. And roll call, Ms. Barnes?
President Kaminsky,
Here.
Vice President Kelly,
Here.
Clerk Wood absent, Trustee Cooper,
Here.
Trustee Christensen,
Here.
Trustee Napier absent, Trustee Sweeney absent, Superintendent Bell,
Present.
and I'm Deanna Barnes.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Would everybody please stand for a moment for the flag salute and a moment of silent reflection immediately after the pledge. Salute, reflection. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Barnes, let the record show that her clerk Wood is present, and also note at 5:01, and also note that Trustee Cooper had to leave for a family issue, so
Thank you.
at 5:01, same time. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Actually, Kelly has a question.
Okay.
Do we still have the two closed session public employee components?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it's written.
A second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Christensen to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Public comments. The district welcomes comments from the public at appropriate times during the meeting. The public may address the board concerning items on the agenda as those items are taken up prior to board discussion and deliberation. The public may also address the board on items not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the board at the time designated. The board requests each speaker must fill out a speaker form at the beginning of the meeting stating the speaker's name, the subject to be addressed, and provide the form to the secretary of the board. Please wait to be recognized by the board president. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to individual members or district employees or to anyone in the audience. Unless otherwise determined by the board, individual speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item, and the board will limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Board Bylaw 9323. The board understands that the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech. However, the board expects that all speech and expression will comport with norms of civil behavior on district grounds and district facilities during district activities or events, and in the use of district electronic/digital systems and platforms. Civil behavior is polite, courteous, and reasonable behavior, which is respectful to others and includes integrity, honesty, acceptance, timeliness, dependability, observance of laws and rules, and effective communication from Board Bylaw 1313. And we have 2 public comments. Haley Carey, you're up first. And this is Anastasia, too? Okay.
Oh, I didn't even notice I'm so loud. Okay. Good evening, board members, superintendent, and community members. Today, I'm missing my partner, Marianne Acevedo, but my name is Anastasia Colindre, and we're back as promised with popcorn for your movie. I'm assisted by Bryson and Haley Carey. To keep you updated on our UGC leadership opportunities, Marianne and I are going to a weekend full of training on August 1st and 2nd. We will start our training at Wild Rivers as a fundraiser for Special Olympics in conjunction with the Law Enforcement Torch Run. We have a QR code if you guys are interested to contributing. All money raised will stay in Southern California and help fund our unified program for the Tehachapi High School. I hope you enjoy the movie.
Oh, thank you.
QR code. Actually, QR code.
Thank you, ladies. Now we move to consent agenda. In order to promote efficient meetings, the board may bundle a number of items and act upon them together by a single vote through the use of a consent agenda. Consent items shall be items of a routine nature and items for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. When any board member requests the removal of an item from the consent agenda, the item shall be removed and given individual consideration for action as a regular agenda item. Does any trustee wish to remove one of the 7 items for further discussion, perhaps a separate vote? Not seeing any. I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Kelly, I make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by, Clerk Wood. The board approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item is discussion information items. First item is the Williams Complaint Quarterly Report. Ms. Paxton.
There's no news to report. We haven't had any Williams complaints this quarter.
It's the report we like to hear. Thank you. Next item is Facility Master Plan Update. Mr. Intezari.
Thank you very much, President Kaminsky. Tonight's presentation by Mr. Robert Thornton from Teeter Architect and Engineers is a result of rigorous multi-year process involving district-wide assessments, demographic analysis, stakeholder meetings, and input from the Facility Advisory Committee. We're very excited to share an update and get your input on the progress of our master plan now that it's kind of buttoning up and ending this lengthy process. So without further ado, Mr. Robert Thornton.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you all again. As we go through this overview of the facility master plan process, please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them as we go through the process. First up, a master plan takes time and effort. Why do we go through this time and effort? One of the big reasons we go through this time and effort, it provides a roadmap. Now, it's not going to be a straight road from here on out, but it does provide a roadmap for the district to follow as far as facilities that are going to improve the district and the lives of the students. Another really big important reason for doing a facility master plan, and I hate to say this, is because the state says you have to do it if you want to get any funding from them. It's a good process. It's important that we meet the state requirements. On that note, I actually just received input from the state on a previous master plan that we just did. This state process is rather new, and we've all been kind of wondering, how are they going to review these master plans? What level of concern are they going to have? And so we got some feedback from them on a previous master plan that we did for another district. Generally, nothing too substantial, but they are looking at these master plans. They do want us to make sure that we're meeting all of the state requirements, which is the direction that your master plan does. Of course, the master plan, the reason for it is to make sure that the improvements that we're doing are really the improvements that are going to benefit the students and the community of Tehachapi. As Hojat mentioned, this has been a significant planning process. I went back and looked when we started this, was back in January of 2025. We've gone through a lot of great process, visiting all the campuses, going to your consultants and looking at enrollment capacities, community meetings. I think Tehachapi owns the record for the most community meetings for many master plans that I've done. And I think that says a lot about how you value your community and what they think. Looking at funding analysis, and then finally, the prioritization of creating a capital plan. Those have all been these important steps. The facility master plan's primary focus for Tehachapi is really investing in your existing facilities. It's making sure that your educational facilities are up to the requirements, the rigor that is required of them, and that you're doing a good job of maintaining and preserving those facilities. Some of the key elements that were identified: Tehachapi High School, completing it, finishing out some of the things that needed to be done there on the high school. The aging Jacobson Middle School, significant needs there of improving that facility. Some unique needs of addressing TK, and then also looking at some access controls issues and other just aging infrastructure around your district facilities. The nice thing about this master plan is it does look at all of the facilities, and all of your facilities have some needs. Of course, the larger campus of the high school and the middle school is the most significant needs. One of the aspects we looked at was the enrollment and capacity. A very positive note there. I mean, you're not growing enrollment. Very few districts are growing at this time, but you do not have a significant downturn. You have a slight decline in enrollment. At the same time, though, you have adequate capacity. So that's not an issue for the district, which is good. It allows you to take care of some of that aging infrastructure and to complete some other aspects that are important. In general, your elementary school campuses are a little bit more highly utilized. but they're not at a point where they're hitting that 90% utilization or something that makes it challenging on principals to manage the program. They're all comfortable in that low 70% range. As we went through and did our facility overview, we did look at some of the significant needs for the campus or for the district. Unfortunately, you never have enough money to take care of all the needs. But these were some of the needs we identified. As I mentioned, completing the high school, which included some athletic, performing arts, other site improvements, renovations on the high school, modernizing the aging buildings on Jacobson Middle School, renewing roofs and HVAC and plumbing, electrical issues around many of your campuses, improving the TK and special education classrooms. One of the main issues there is not having integrated restrooms into those facilities, replacing aged portables and improving safety and circulation. These are the needs that we identified. Like I said, the master plan addresses the majority of these, but unfortunately, it can't address all of these right now. But that doesn't mean the master plan is inadequate. It just means this is the first step forward, and it's a good step forward. Of course, it's all about how do you make a master plan work with the money. One important aspect is the state funding strategy. How can we maximize whatever funds the district is able to obtain locally by looking towards the state to increase those funds? And the district is in a good position. You have what's called modernization eligibility. You have $49 million of total modernization eligibility. That number includes a state match and a local match. And modernization, for you guys, that's the state puts 61% in. You guys put in 39%. That match is only for eligible projects. The vast majority of your projects are eligible, but there are some that we've looked at that are important that do not have a state matching component to it, or your campus maybe have so much needs that it's beyond what the state says your modernization eligibility is. But for, in your case here, we're looking at the state putting forth over the life of the master plan around $22 million of matching funds, which is a fabulous benefit to the community. Not only, does the district and the community potentially put in money, but the state's there also. Any questions on that? As I mentioned before, the capacity of your campuses are adequate. And so based upon our review, you do not have any new construction eligibility, and you do not have any significant new construction needs. So that's one funding source that's not available to the district right now. If things change dramatically and everybody decides to come move to Tehachapi because it's a wonderful place, maybe that'll change. But right now, that's not the case. There's another presentation after me, I believe, that's going to provide a lot more information about this. But in general, the master plan requires us to put in the master plan information about your bonding capacity, what your outstanding bonds in and what your bonding capacity is. Whether a district is considering a local bond or not, that's a requirement of the master plan. And so within your master plan, you have $160 million of bonding capacity roughly. And to our knowledge, there's no outstanding local bonds right now. You are at the lowest level of bond community bonding amount for Kern County, obviously because you have no bonds. There are quite a few districts who are much higher in being funded by local bonds. To date, we've been talking about potentially a $60 million local bond could help facilitate this master plan, but that number is obviously completely in the board's hands and other consultants who are much more focused on that. The facility master plan has identified a need of $85 million worth of projects. Seems like a huge number. And things are very expensive, I'm sorry to say. But as you look at that number, one, it really touches all the district, which is a wonderful thing. It also looks at a lot of different sources for making this happen funding-wise. As we mentioned before, there's a local matching component that's could be around $57 million. The state component, which is around $21 million, and then some local district funds that are already in hand or projected as far as developer fees that would also be put towards this facility master plan. The important piece to note here is that, to get that all in $85 million, you have to put in a sizable amount of local money, but then you get this significant component of state match coming in to really help stretch your dollars further. The money is spread across the whole district, but there is a large component of it that is going towards the high school and the middle school, which touches all of your students, the vast majority of your students, a larger amount of your students. As you look at the age of your elementary school campuses compared to the middle school, not as old. So it kind of helps us understand why some of these needs are so great at the middle school campus and also on the high school, just in the effort to complete the high school campus. And it's also interesting to note that your high school campus is now also eligible for modernization, even though it feels new, it's not brand new anymore. And it's time to be putting money into that campus to keep it in the good state that it is right now. This is not a super detailed list, but this is a summary of the projects that are currently high priority projects identified in the facility master plan. We have currently escalated these projects out 4 years. That's kind of just a general escalation. Some projects potentially could be done in 1 to 2 years. Other ones may not be done for 6 to 8 years. But as an average, we put an escalation of 4 years right now for planning purposes. We also wanted to indicate which of these projects have potential state matching funds. And you can see quite a bit of them all have potential state matching funds. Some of these projects we've indicated none remaining. That really depends which project goes first to get the $12 million of state money that the high school is eligible, or the $9 million of state money that the middle school is eligible. It's kind of like, it doesn't matter which one gets the money. It's just get in there as quick as you can, get that reimbursement in the works so that you can get that money later on. Any questions on these list of projects? The facility master plan, when that draft is done, will have much more detailed information than this. But this has all been reviewed very extensively with your district staff.
Robert, real quick. Robert.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I got an echo.
You said escalated out 4 years from 2026, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. As the district moves forward with a more, if they decide to move forward with a bond and they have more of a specific timing of when, if that's supported by the community, et cetera, we would then come in and develop a more detailed list that's like, oh, bond money here, these projects here, bond money here, these projects here, state reimbursement here, and plan out and actually put appropriate escalations into those projects.
Thank you.
As we mentioned before, the program really emphasizes the aging infrastructure modernization on all your campuses, especially the middle school, the completion of the high school, phase 1 of the Performing Arts Center, high school stadium and athletic improvements, and even doing some campus access controls district-wide for security and safety. The facility master plan requires us to put in it a capital improvement plan. a 5-year capital plan. I prefer that capital plan to be based upon real money. And so we've identified the potential money that the district has right now for facilities and the developer fees, and have identified, approximately $6 million of available money during the next 5 years or so. And so right now, if there is no other local bond, no other thing available, we're indicating the immediate needs would be to come in and increase some of your TK capacity, because we felt like that's the closest thing to needed capacity that you have. And that, I won't say vulnerable, but that special age group has significant needs, especially as you're thinking now that we're educating 4-year-olds. These kids need to have the best potential facility so that they're starting out their educational environment at Tehachapi Unified in the best way possible. And so if we had to identify a most immediate need, that's what we put down as the most immediate need in the master plan. As I mentioned before, the master plan can't accomplish everything. We have identified those other additional needs. They are in the master plan document. The district is committed to making those happen eventually. Some of those may be able to happen through other local funds, district funds. Sometimes there may be other funding sources that may come up during the life of the master plan. But right now, they are identified beyond the needs of the current master plan. But we don't want the community to feel that these are not important needs. Unfortunately, though, we had a feeling of a set amount of money that we wanted to stay under for this first step of a facility master plan. So what happens now? Immediate task is, to finalize the master plan and then move forward with those immediate needs. Start readying, hopefully, projects, your other high priority projects, figure out your funding strategy for the facility master plan, look at potential local bond opportunities, have that discussion here as a board, and then look at how we can implement based upon your guys' further direction. Do you have any questions for me regarding the facility master plan or Hojat? I've had the pleasure of obviously meeting with a lot of you during this process, which I think has been extremely beneficial. It's always good to have board members who are very aware of what the master plan has been discussing. It makes this a much easier process. So I appreciate your time and commitment to that process.
I do have a question, Robert.
Yes.
You mentioned no money for new facilities. Would the removal of many of our portables get us closer to that, or perhaps even?
It helps in two different ways. Removal of portables allows us to build new facilities under modernization eligibility. So some of the things that we've looked at potentially at the high school and even some of the other elementary schools, if you're able to remove some old dilapidated portables, you can build new and use that modernization money. You would have to really have a significant, reducing the capacity does help, but you'll also have to have a significant increase in enrollment before you'll qualify for actual new construction eligibility.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you for your time this evening.
Any other questions come up at the last minute, trustees? All right. Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
Another information item. November 2026 GO bond analysis. Mr. Bell. Okay, Mr. Intezari.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. So to build on our facilities discussion, we have Mr. Jason List, principal with ISIM Advisors. Will share the financial side of the facility discussion. When we discuss facilities at length, we certainly consider the burden on the taxpayer, and Mr. List will provide more context on what that looks like from a expert opinion. Mr. List.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jason with ISIM Advisors. I know that you all probably don't think about bonds on a daily basis, or at least I hope you don't. So if you want to pause at any time as I go through this and ask questions, please do so. I do have hard. So again, my name is Jason with ISIM Advisors. We are what's known as a full service financial advisory firm. And so that means anytime a district is thinking about a bond sale, a bond election, campaigning for the bonds, we're a full service firm. So we can help with every aspect of it. And right away, starting off on slide 3, the intention here is not to blind you with a bunch of different school districts, but these are districts that were successful in 2024. And I highlighted Buttonwillow School District right in the middle, intentionally, just an anecdotal story I think that may be helpful for you going forward. And another reason we put this on here is that, you know, these are school districts across the state. Every school district is different. Every community is different. Those communities are going to have different needs. And I have a feeling your district community, you're going to be more tax sensitive than some of the others. So I worked with McFarland School District on a bond, way different demographically speaking than you, way less tax sensitive. So part of the presentation I've built has that in mind. What I think might be viable for your school district in terms of tax and what might not be viable. First, to derive to a point of what you can afford in terms of bonding capabilities, capacity, we do a review of your district's assessed valuation. And all assessed valuation means is taxable property within district boundaries. Now, this is a 12-year snapshot. Values certainly go back way further than this, but to give a semi-recent time frame, we started here. So over the life of this snapshot in time here, your tax base has grown by 4.54%. You've had some up years, you've had some not as robust years, but on average, pretty healthy. Anytime you're thinking about a bond sale or a bond program, I always say it's better to be more conservative than not with future growth assumptions, because we do have to project out how your tax base may grow, because that's what bonds are sold against, is future valuations of your district's value. For what we'll discuss here tonight, I assumed 3.75% year-over-year growth. Now, some years it's going to be more than that. Some years it's going to be less than that. The idea is that to get the average right. There's other safeguards we build in when we sell bonds as to not breach whatever stated tax rate that we committed to your public. And the reason I'm more conservative than not is if you tell your public the tax rate is going to be $29 and the next year your tax base drops for whatever reason and it's $31, $32, legally, the county assessor has to collect whatever taxes are necessary to pay bondholders. Politically, not so good for you, not so good for you, not so good for anybody. So I like to be safer than not when we're dealing with tax dollars. Other things that are important on this slide, the box to the right, your district did pass a bond last in 1999 for $24 million, nearly 70% approval, which is fantastic. With a Prop 39 election that requires 55% of those who vote to vote yes to win a bond election. Now, 1999 was a long time ago. That's a long time between bond elections for any district in the state. So that tells me you're due or coming very close to being due for more money. You have no money, no remaining authorization, so no more dollars to spend from that election. And all your district bonds were paid off early in 2022. You were actually scheduled to pay these off, I believe, next year. But there was over collections at the county level, paid off bonds early, which is great. Which also means you hadn't been taxed for, coming up on a 5-year period now, which is also great. The other reason this slide is important is it gives us our calculus on what your capacity is. So as a unified school district, the state multiplier is 2.5% times your current assessed valuation at $6.6 billion. So a gross capacity of $166.1 million. If you had any principal debt outstanding, we'd subtract that amount. You do not. So your total credit card limit essentially is $166.1 million. Now, do I think your public would support a bond that big? No way. So that's the reason I didn't size a potential bond program to $166 million. Picked 3 different tax rates, and as a unified school district, you're legally allowed to go up to a $60 tax rate per bond authorization. I capped that at $29 again, and we'll talk about demographics here in just a minute. But given your demographics, I think we'd be very hard pressed to pass a $60 tax rate. So I went from 19, 25, and 29. So low end on this range anyway, 39.9 million, mid case 52.5, and high end 61 million. This again does assume 3.75% assessed valuation growth. It does assume 30-year bonds for each bond sale. So pretty significant proceeds. Again, obviously, the higher up you go, the more dollars you get. Questions I often get on the slide is, well, I see you have bond sales every 3 years, and why not all at once? The reality is you could do all at once, or this could be 2 sales, or it could be 4. Part of the limitations are when we sell bonds, we have to be reasonably certain that you can spend 85% or more of those proceeds within a 3-year period. If you can't, you have potential IRS arbitrage rebate penalties, which you don't want to deal with. The other reason is project demand, and the folks at Teeter can help with this. Obviously, we have phase 1 of various projects, and we think the spend down period is X. Or for the next tranche of bonds, it might be, well, this is going to take a little longer to suss out. So this is pretty typical. Bond sales every 2 to 3 years. But if you need to accelerate, you need to delay, that's also fine. This is really for illustrative purposes.
Jason, I do have a question on that.
Yeah.
85%. Does that mean it has to be spent with those projects done, or just
money out the door? Projects do not have to be done.
Okay, so money out the door, or contracts signed for money out the door?
Yes.
You said yes to both.
So it gets a little gray depending on who the bond tax counsel is. The better test is to actually have the money spent. Some attorneys will say if you have a purchase order or sign a contract, they will allow that, depending on what the projects are and how the IRS views those particular projects. They can get way into the weeds. I'm not a tax attorney. The safer rule is money spent, but there is some gray area with contract sign.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So at a $29 tax rate up to $61 million, again, 30-year bond maturities. At a full tax rate at $60, just to give you the math, that could generate up to $126 million. Again, I would not advise for a $60 tax rate. That's not going to work out well. I mentioned and highlighted Buttonwillow, and part of the reason I did that is going back to a conversation with Kern Tax. I don't know if anybody knows Michael Turnipseed or Tim Rushing, but working with Buttonwillow, we had a plan. It was a pretty low tax rate. It was like a $12 tax rate, but it was like a 25-year maturity. They came to us and said, and I think reasonably, hey, bump this tax rate up to $15 and shorten the debt. So it was a higher tax rate, but the total payback, the total interest was a lot lower. So I just ran a scenario for you all. So at the $25 tax rate, for example, is $52.5 million. But that's the final maturity for all bond sales. Again, if you go under this schedule, 30 years, the final maturity for all the bonds being paid off is 2061. I wanted to see what getting the same dollars at a slightly higher tax rate would be. So I assumed $29 tax rate to size to 52.5 million, the same amount for that mid-case scenario. That drops the total payments for all debt by 7 years to 2054. The differential in tax dollars saved, again, less dollars you have in principal for projects, the total tax or interest differential is $20 million. So real money, right? Part of the reason I thought of that, wanted to bring this up, is getting current tax support, I think, would be very beneficial. Not that they wouldn't sign off on what you have here on the sheet of paper, but just knowing them and the way they conduct their business. If you're more conservative, shorter debt, less interest, you're more likely to get their sign off. Not saying you wouldn't either way, but just wanted to kind of highlight that point and give you that example. Moving on to demographics, as I'm sure you're very aware, you are a conservative leaning district. Approximately 23,000 registered voters. Majority are Republicans, so 54% Republican, 19% Democrat, 27% other. Others are generally independents, declined to state, but they typically follow the traditional party lines. We have a more mature voting population. 55% of voters are 50 and older, which may mean not as much affiliation as some school districts have younger demographics, but that's not necessarily the case. The point is, across the state, not just in Kern County, Republican voters vote for school bond measures at a higher rate than Democratic voters do. Again, not political, just a fact of how things work. Again, there's a lot more demographics you could dive into, but given this set of values here alone, that was what pushed me to urge a lower tax rate than not. $29, I think, is definitely more viable than something north of $29. Certainly, it is, as you approach the $60 limit, I think your chances greatly diminish. Looking at recent voter turnouts, gubernatorial years, they do pretty well. Presidential election years, obviously, you have people coming out to vote for or against one of the candidates. You're going to have a bigger draw. We do think the voter election turnout will be higher than what has been traditionally this coming November. For a lot of reasons. Part of it is what we saw in 2018. A lot of people came out to either support the president or voice their opinion against the president in 2018. And a lot of the pollsters are expecting a similar reaction. More than that, politics, good or bad, probably bad for the Republic, has been kind of a sport. I think people pay a lot more attention to politics than they may be used to. So I think, just voter interest, I think, will drive out what a higher percentage turnout than what you've historically seen here in this district. So a long way of saying you'll get good turnout, which is helpful during the marketing aspect of a bond election. Because the trick with any bond election is to get voters out and get likely yes voters to your cause. And we can talk more about that topic here in just a minute. One thing I thought was interesting about your district is your tax rates, tax rate history, and tax rate history or tax rate current day relative to your neighbors. So this is your district's tax rate history, excuse me, since the year 2000. So the average here is about $50 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. Said another way, if your home is assessed, not market value, but assessed at $100,000, you've paid about annually $50 or about $4 and change a month over the history. Peak high of $97 in 2003, 4, and again, since 2002, there's been no school bond tax levies assessed against your community. What I think is more telling, and I had a graph that had every school district in Kern County and what their current tax rates are. That was way too cumbersome. It was impossible to read. So I was like, you know what? Let me just look at the unifieds. So you can see here, Southern Kern, the highest, the Hyatt El Cajon, the lowest of bonds outstanding. But if you look even at El Cajon, they're at $50-ish tax rate. If you were to put a $29 tax rate on the bond on November 26th bond measure, you would still be the lowest of the districts who have bonds outstanding. And if you had the map of every district in the county at a $29 tax rate, you would still be among the lowest. You'd be among the top 5 to 10 lowest at a $29 tax rate. So, I know everybody has different tax sensitivities, but just comparatively anyway, the tax burden here has been light. And if you put a bond on the ballot at a $29 tax rate or thereabouts, would still continue to be the lowest among the region. If you extend it out to the greater region, Los Angeles County, you definitely be still among the lowest because they like their taxes in LA. Next steps. The big important next step, if this body wanted to put a bond measure on the ballot, would to be approve a bond resolution. And in that resolution would have all the legal terms. It would have all the projects that you're entertaining. It would have the tax rates, estimated payback of principal and interest, highest tax rate, average tax rate. It's kind of the over guiding document to let the public know what is you're exactly doing. That resolution does take a supermajority. It's not a simple majority with a bond resolution. So you would have to have 2/3 of you to vote yes to have it move forward. And the ultimate deadline is August 7th. So not a ton of time to deal with. I understand you have a regular board meeting on the 4th. You could take that up at that meeting, or you could call a special board meeting. Bond resolutions can be approved as special. I like to do it earlier than not because I've had one horror story in my career with bond resolutions. I had a district in Imperial County. They waited till the very end to file the resolution. The resolution was correct, turned it into the county. The county misinterpreted a number. When they sent out the sample ballot, didn't give us a chance to review. So that bond measure was a $15 million bond. Total payback over the life of the whole bond program, principal and interest, was $30 million. Pretty typical, about 2-to-1 repayment ratio. The county put an extra 0 in their projection. So it said $15 million to pay back $300 million. That election lost. And I understand why. If people think they're paying back $300 million compared to $15 million in principal, I wouldn't vote for it either. So just a cautionary tale. If you can turn it in sooner, the better, to give the county review, give them time to give us feedback and ask questions. Saves a lot of potential headache. Is I think the main point. Assuming that you do get on the ballot, you would want to form a bond campaign committee, and that committee would consist of, there would be more people involved, but the core committee would consist of 5 to 7 members. You would have a campaign chair, campaign treasurer, what we call endorsement coordinators, volunteer coordinators, a campaign treasurer. Our group helps with all this. We create the box, but every box is different. Again, you're going to communicate to your public different than you would in the Bay Area or LA, or pick a place. Again, every campaign should be unique to the district, and our job is to work with the campaign committee to just suss out how do you want this campaign to look. So we coordinate. We do all the mail, all the texting, the social media advertising. Whatever you think of a campaign, we do the full gambit. We help you with that.
Jason,
Yes.
mind if I go back a couple of steps?
Not at all.
You said a supermajority, and just so I'm clear, is that of the total members or
Yes.
members that are present at that vote?
Total members.
Thank you.
Yes. So the campaign, you create this committee. A board member can and oftentimes is on the campaign committee, but I always recommend just one, just to avoid any potential Brown Act issues. And board member oftentimes are on the committee. The superintendent is generally what's called the district liaison. Cannot get involved in advocating. You as board members in public session, you cannot advocate for or against the bond either. on your own personal time, your First Amendment rights hold true. You can say whatever you want, but if it's involved within a public setting, you have to be neutral. No matter your feelings on the bond. But we run the campaign. We form this committee, file with the FPPC, open a bank account. It is a separate legal entity at the end of the day. It's not a for-profit. It's not a not-for-profit. It's this weird thing in the middle. But we help with the filing and establishment of that committee. And then again, after that committee is created, I come back out and there's a separate presentation that just focuses on the campaign stuff alone. And other groups, facilities committees or whoever that you work with, they're certainly involved. Again, nothing goes out the door from a campaign aspect without campaign chair sign off. So there's definitely quality control involved in this. You as a district, you can use your time and money on sending out factual information. So any FAQ piece, any renderings of what the buildings may look like, that's not advocating. If you're giving facts, you can do that all day long. That's totally fine. But again, the advocacy part of it is separate and aside from the district body. District definitely cannot spend any dollars, time, resources on the advocating portion of it. So we, from that committee, run it from August all the way to November and hope that 55% of those who vote yes. If so, you have your bond authorization, and then you can move on to the next step of selling bonds, depending on timing of need and how much. There's a lot more to that, especially the back half of the timeline there, but it's a pretty quick summation of what takes place.
Can I go back another step or two?
Yep.
Okay, so board members need to vote not need, but if we decide to bring it forward, we vote yay or nay.
Mhm.
After that yay or nay vote, no longer at that point can we say yay or nay to positives or negatives anywhere.
On your own time, you
As a board member, and we all know that everything we say is everything we say.
yes.
So we get the pros or cons or positives or negatives at the meeting to approve or disapprove, but after that, there's nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you're at the local restaurant and somebody comes up and asks you, you're not there as a board member, you're there as a resident having dinner. Hey, what do you feel about the bond? Say whatever you want, First Amendment rights. But if you're at Kiwanis there and you, as a capacity of the board member, can't be positive or negative. You can be factual, and that's it. Where boards have gotten caught, it's not in those situations out in public. It's within board settings and public minutes where a board member will say something either good or bad. It's usually good about it, and it's caught in public minutes, and somebody in the public happened to be at the meeting or saw it online and files a complaint. That's the last thing that you want is a FPPC violation because you're probably looking at about $5,000. So you don't want to pay that, right?
But any discussion in that initial meeting is fair game.
Fair game.
Afterwards, after the vote.
After you approve the resolutions, yeah, it's separate.
Thank you.
Different window at that point. Yep.
I have a question as well, Jason. So if making sure I understand this, so if we can publish factual information such as our previous bond from 1999 was paid off,
Mhm.
and it was also about 8 years ago refinanced
Mhm.
for a better rate.
Yep.
And we also added a new 6th grade wing with developer fees, and that came in at budget.
All fair game. That is all fair game.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Intezari. Robert.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
No.
Jason, great presentation.
Thank you.
Not as much fun as a master plan.
Bonds aren't exciting.
They're exciting because they make master plans. You mentioned that you need to publish the list of projects.
Mhm.
How detailed does that project list need to be or want to be? Because I've heard different things in the past where, what sells bonds, roofing, technology, safety, sometimes depending on the community, a stadium improvement. But usually if you give tons of detail about the projects, it gets too much.
Yes.
What's your experience there?
It's a good question. So on the project list, you're going to have a section where you're going to bullet point out itemized projects that you feel are important to the community. And some of those might be specific, some might not be specific. But you don't want a huge ongoing list because it'll be white noise. It'll drown out the message. There's a section that the bond attorneys will put in, they call the graveyard. And that'll give language that gives not only this board, but future boards some flexibility. So if there's something not exactly contemplated today, let's make up something, solar. The solar language could be in that graveyard language, but you might not list it as one of the main bullet points. And the attorneys will also tell you that of this shortened list that you think are projects that are really viable to the public, you can even bold, highlight some of them. You can't do all of them because that starts to look like influencing. But that's a good question. You want to craft it in a way that it's appealing to the public without beating the public over the head over a million projects. And if it's a million projects and you're not going to get to the last 500,000, and then you probably shouldn't put them in that bulleted point list.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Yes.
As you're probably aware, I believe the year was 2020, Parks and Rec put out a bond. I don't remember the amount.
Yep.
It was a lot of, I'll say in my description of it, a lot of the items were Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
And it got destroyed.
Yep.
2-1.
Yep.
So if we're approached by man on the street, maybe a public comment here at a board meeting, how can we stress the fact that, in my opinion, none of these items on the plan are Taj Mahal?
Exactly right. And this is not just your community, but in more conservative communities than not, people appreciate taking care of what you have. They understand upkeep. They understand, hey, our roofs are 50, 60 years old. It's a problem. It's become a bigger problem. Let's take care of that. Where you started to get the more of the exciting new Taj Mahal projects, those don't fly as much. Not only in conservative communities, but believe it or not, in more liberal-leaning communities as well. I think it's human nature. People understand taking care of what you have. So that could be the elevator speech. Hey, this is nothing new. Super exciting. We're taking care of our basic needs. We haven't had bonds in 30 years. We haven't had money to spend in 20 something years. People understand that. You can equate it to a home renovation. Hey, if you bought a house that was built in 1984, you haven't done anything to it since, there's going to be some issues there. So I think, again, more conservative leaning communities understand that message more than, hey, we're going to build this 5-story admin building or,
right.
pick a project. Yeah.
And also, may I, how should I handle, because I was vice principal and principal at the middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And I have vivid recollections of maintenance workers crawling into the roof to fix a drip over the student counter. And it wasn't a drip. It was like somebody turned on the faucet.
Yeah.
And I have another recollection. Now, these have been replaced, but our boilers, whatever they were for heating, of course, goes out in the winter. It was like clockwork. And there was never forget a maintenance man trying to get to the part, standing in ankle deep water.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to have the part manufactured. That's how old they were. Now, they've been replaced, but and where I'm kind of leading to, somebody asked me, I'm in Rotary here in town, and I'll be asked in a conversation before the meeting, what's this bond? What are you going to do? And why do we need a bond?
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard for me to not share those stories.
Absolutely. And you definitely should. Again, those are stories of hey, this is taking care of what we have here. We want to take care of our facilities. We have pride in our local schools. And again, these are not projects that are frivolous. And I think that's what people really understand. Like, you're using our money, you're using it wisely, using it for project needs, not pie in the sky wish list. And as the gentleman at Teeter is going through the projects, you're going to identify and again prioritize what projects come first, what are the most important. That's going to be the follow-up question: is, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do immediately? Give me some examples of how you're going to spend these dollars, and having those answers ready will be important.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go back for just a second. One topic I kind of not really glanced over, but didn't really hammer home is, it has been a very long time since this district has had a bond authorization. So what some school districts, not all, do is they have a mindset: we're going to do a bond every 6 to 8 to 10 years. But with that, we're going to pick a lower tax rate because we're highly confident money is going to be replenished later. So just to give the example, if it was a $19 tax rate for $39.9 million, doesn't cover as much as what the 50 or 60 million would do. But the plan is, hey, in 6 to 10 years, we're going to come back with the idea we don't want to overtax burden like immediately. We're going to do this in stages. And there's a way to structure the repayment of the bonds that, you do a $19 bond now, for example, and 8 years from now for another 19. Well, that's not 38. We've developed it in a way to where it's somewhere in between, like the 19 and 38. So that is an idea too. There's certainly some risk that comes with that you pass a bond at a lower rate now, but you don't 8 years from now. So there's definitely risk. There's definitely trade-offs, but it is a strategy that some districts do employ and have done so successfully.
Vice President Kelly.
I don't think anybody in our community is going to think in 8 years money will be cheaper than it is today.
Correct. It won't.
President Kaminsky, can I ask Robert from Teeter a question since he brought up another question, or can we not go back to business?
Sure.
So, Robert, now that you've seen what the money looks like, or what we're looking at, it doesn't mean there's nothing guaranteed here. Yeah. Knowing that if a bond does, if this board does move forward, if our community does move forward, knowing that we would be near the bottom of the overall tax rate, would the facilities with the current proposed master plan put our facilities on par with the other unified districts? And I don't mean 100%. I know that we're not the Taj Mahal. I know that we're looking at maintaining what we have, a few improvements here and there possibly. But if this were to all go as it looks today, should we be as proud or more proud than some of the other communities that are spending a lot more money?
I think you would be proud of the facilities that you would have developed with a master plan. And to my mind, I mean, when we looked at your facilities, it's not like, oh, these are terrible, terrible facilities. And I've seen terrible, terrible facilities. You're not there. I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. Kirk takes care of the facilities. That's a good thing. Key areas where I compare to other districts, and they came up in our master plan. You don't have a stadium on your high school campus. Your middle school campus is getting super, super old and needs to be taken care of. Your TK kids are not in standard TK classrooms. Those are some of the big glaring things that this fixes, and it maintains, the roofs at the high school, they're not an issue right now. Will there be an issue in 5 years if you don't do anything? They sure as heck will be. And so we've got to take care of what we have, type of thing. But those elements there, if you do the master plan, yes, you're going to be on par with districts that are taking care of their facilities appropriately. Now, would 160 million get us even further? Heck yeah. But I'm a patient person. The types of projects that you would need to do over the next 8 to 10 years, it's going to keep your district staff working hard. to even get those accomplished. So let's be patient, get an influx of money, get this thing going, improve the facilities, and hopefully find a way to continue making those improvements over the next 10 to 20 years beyond that.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question just to get general feedback? Just on the one particular idea where I had where $29 at 52.5 million, but shrinking the debt down versus $29 in more money. Do you have a opinion or a direction on that? Because ultimately, I would need to take some set of numbers and embed them in the resolution document. It doesn't have to be decided right now, but just want to put that out there.
President Kaminsky, I got a question.
Go ahead. Trustee Christensen.
Like Vice President Kelly said, there's a delineation line when we make that vote, and then we are off the side just from the standpoint that we can neither say yay or nay about anything from an official standpoint.
After you pass the resolution, that's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Now, like President Kaminsky said, he's at the Rotary thing, and he's everybody knows he's the president, right? They approach him. What is the proper, if you excuse the term, the proper chain of command when it comes to that, when they say, tell us what is going to, where's this money, when this is going to happen, when they start to go for specifics, which people will.
Yep.
Are you going to have a contact, or is he going to have a contact of, here's who you need, I can't answer this because I'm on the board, but these people are assigned to that. They can answer those questions.
Yeah. So to answer it in two different ways. So if he's there as the board president, can't say anything. If he's there just as a member of that Rotary, he can, First Amendment rights hold true. So you can do or say whatever you want. Again, if you're there as a representative of the district, you cannot. The second part with your direct question is, we'll have kind of like stocked canned answers that will likely go to the district liaison, but the first stop would be the campaign chair. So we would need to think who that campaign chair is. Someone that is responsible, can deliver the right message. I don't know who that person is. You all may, but that would be the easiest handoff. Is just say, you know what, the campaign chair, he or she is on top of all these things. Here's this person's contact information. That's the simplest way to do it.
That was going to be my follow-up on that, is because when you have 7, 8 people, 10 people, sometimes it was just like playing telephone when we were in elementary school. It starts out the blue elephant,
Correct.
It ends up the pink fox.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So making sure that we're all on to eliminate that. If
Yes.
we had that single point of contact, which I appreciate that, being able to give them, here's the one that knows exactly what's going on.
Yes.
And that way it's always the same.
Yeah, that's true. You want to, like, Mr. Kaminsky told me, like, I need to do this and that, or our schools are going to fall apart, which wouldn't be true, but I could see that circumstance happening potentially. Yeah.
You would prepare informational sheets
Yes.
about the projects and such, and that's just communicating information.
Yes.
And so each one of you should have those. Everybody should have them.
Yep.
So that you're giving a consistent voice out there. I would suggest that you try to keep that information, once again, generic enough, because if you're going out strong, say, first project's a stadium, well, you've made 20% of the people happy, 20% of the people
True.
mad, 40, indifferent, like, hey, these are high priority projects. These are the projects we're going to go out with. Maybe not, this is the one project.
Right. Yep. Good point.
I have a question. It is on record when we do vote that we voted for that resolution.
Yep.
So, that's public.
Yeah, you can tell.
Right. That's
Once I voted for it and the information is out there.
What I was talking about was more on the information of a specific roof or a stadium or the TK and the K things, because because each family is going to have a different perspective. Each family is going to they're going to be looking at it from a little bit different standpoint. They're going to have a different point of view. And some are going to want this, others are going to want that, and so what I was thinking, that's why I was saying, is if we had that one point of contact, that we didn't have to juggle answers. It's just like, here.
Yep.
So that was just what I was thinking. I mean, yes, they know we voted for it, but at the same time, we have a point of contact when it goes beyond that vote.
Yep. That's the campaign chair's job. And I always say, if campaign chair's job is either the easiest or the hardest, if the rest of the committee does their job, it's the easiest job. If they don't, it's the hardest job. But yeah, that's part of my spiel during the campaign kickoff meeting.
Anyone else? Thank you, Jason.
All right,
Very
thank you.
informative. And if we have questions, I'm sure we'll let Mr. Bell know and
Great. All right.
give them
Thanks.
to you.
All right, have a good night.
All right, moving on to new business. Number one, approval of memorandum of understanding, MOU, dated 07/01/2026 between Tehachapi Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 466, Contracting Out Services. Mr. Bell, do you want to make any comments?
The district engaged with the CSEA chapter in order to discuss this particular MOU, and so we came to a resolution on contracting out services, and this was the final. Both parties felt very, very comfortable at the end of the negotiation component, and we're excited about where we landed, so appreciate that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion for the board to approve the memorandum of understanding, MOU, dated July 1st, 2026, between Tehachapi Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 466, for contracting out services as presented?
Kelly, make the motion.
I'll second.
As motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Clerk Wood, the board approved the memorandum of understanding dated 7/1/26 between Tehachapi Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 466, for contracting out services. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Or, I'm sorry, 4-0. Number two, approval of provisions internship permit, PIP, for the 2026-2027 school year, extended support needs. Harmon is one of the folks that we already approved in the consent agenda. Any questions or comments from the board? Have a motion that the board approve provisional internship permit, PIP, extensive support needs, Harmon, as presented.
Kelly, make the motion.
This motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Christensen. The board approved the provisional internship permit, PIP, extensive support needs, Harmon, as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. I'm losing it. Excuse me. Item 3, approval of variable turn waivers for the 2026-2027 school year, completion of staff development, CCSD, Lance, and how do you say that last name? Nago. Again, these are for employees that we just hired. Is there a motion? I'm sorry, is there any questions or comments? Do I have a motion for the board to approve the variable term waivers for completion of staff development, CCSD, Lance, and Nago, as presented?
Kelly, make the motion.
I'll second.
It was motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Clerk Wood. The board approved the variable term waivers for completion of staff development, CCSD, for Lansing to go as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 4, approval of revised job description for board certified behavior analyst. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the job description for board certified behavior analyst as presented?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It was motion by Clerk Wood, seconded by Trustee Christensen. The board approved the job description for board certified behavior analyst as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 5, approval of revised job description for Director of Student Support Services. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none?
Actually, I do.
Okay. Vice President Kelly.
And I just didn't catch it in time for the last one, but this says they report to a chief administrator of student support services. That is something we're discussing later. So my confusion is, how can we do this? Can we approve a job that reports to somebody that we don't even have that position approved? So should these be in the reverse order?
I think that's a great point, and I think we should move to number 7.
Okay, thank you.
Item 7 is approval of new job description for Chief Administrator of Student Support Services. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the new job description for Chief Administrator of Student Support Services as presented?
Kelly, make the motion.
Second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Christensen. The board approved the new job description for Chief Administrator of Student Support Services as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now we'll go back to number 5, approval of revised job description for Director of Student Support Services. Already asked if there was questions, and there was one, and we answered it. So is there a motion to approve the board, for the board to approve the revised job description for Director of Student Support Services?
Also move.
Kelly, a second.
It was motioned by Trustee Christensen, seconded by Vice President Kelly. The board approved the revised job description for Director of Student Support Services. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 6, approval of new job description for psychologist supervisor. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. Is there a motion for the board to approve the revised job description for Director of Student Support Services?
Kelly, make the motion. Kelly, make the motion.
Psychologist supervisor.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Psychologist supervisor.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, that cursor just does not like me. It changes. Okay, is there a motion for the approval of the new job description for psychologist supervisor as presented?
Kelly, make the motion.
Second.
It was motion by Vice President Kelly, seconded by Trustee Christensen. Board approved the new job description for psychologist supervisor as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. That brings us to future items. I am proposing, as you heard from both of our presenters, that we have a special meeting July 28th, a week from tonight, for the bond resolution. See a lot of nodding heads.
Yeah.
No, I'm just getting a consensus.
And remember, we'll need the supermajority vote on
Yeah,
that.
please our three missing trustees. Two of them need, well, one more absolutely needs to be there, but in case there's any no votes, they really, and for something that's important, they all should be there. I would hope. All right. We next two items are in closed session. Are there any public comments for closed session? And those items that pertaining to the public comments would be number one, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, government code section 54957, subdivision B1. And the second is the same. Public employee discipline, dismissal, release, government code section 54957, subdivision B1. Any public comments? Seeing none, we are adjourning at 6:21 to go into closed session. I do not anticipate there'll be a report out. It is 7:36, and we are reconvening out of closed session. There is nothing to report on. So I'm going to go to the last item, and that is adjourned. We are adjourned at 7:37.